Yo, day 12. Oh, how you guys liking the new color? It seems to be sticking, at least for the nighttime videos. Someone put in the comments about it matching the blue of the throat chakra, being the expression and all of that. So I thought that was rather fitting. It's kind of purplish, but it all works. Super cool. Yeah, so we're on day 12. Getting close to halfway. Today has been a big journey around exploring desire and what it really means to have desire towards something. It seems to be the one thing that is required for anything to happen. Like, to actually have a desire is what allows us to create things in our life. Desire creates children. Desire creates dreams and ambitions and missions to become reality. And desire is such a primal force, such a core force. And I've been looking into like what the driving factors are in my life and what has held me back in the past and why I haven't, the questions of why haven't I achieved what I wanted to achieve at this point in time in my life? Why is it not? Like, why do I not have tons of money? Why do I not have tons of success all at this point? And it all comes down to really the lack of desire. And so in realizing this, it's time to start tapping into that desire and really claiming it. Because if we don't claim our desires, well, nothing happens. Nothing moves forward. We kind of sit in a victim state and say, well, maybe I want it. Maybe we can claim that I need it. Or that I don't need it, which is the classic story. I need it, or actually I don't need that. I don't need to succeed at my soul's mission. I don't need to succeed at the thing that lights me up the most. And on the other side of that is I actually need it. There's been this journeying of when we dissolve these pendulums, and I say they're a pendulum because they're on a scale. We've got a scale of, well, I need this and I don't need this. And then if we look above that pendulum, if it was a pendulum swinging and we look above that, we go, well, what's above that is probably a want. Because there's only a certain amount of things that we actually need to survive. It's like if you were to say that you need food, which is true. We do need food to survive. But do you need McDonald's? Do you need a pizza? I would argue no. It's not a need, it's a want or it's a desire. And sure, you can go out and get McDonald's or a pizza in that moment and it will provide you some sort of satisfaction. Where the real core here is it satisfying a core like a soul need? Is it satisfying something that is actually has meaning to you? Because we can want all sorts of things. We can want anything. We can want to have humans. We can want members of the opposite sex, the same sex. We can want to own a Lamborghini. We can want to own a house. All of these things. We can want to own an island if we really want. And it's like nothing's off limits to what we want. And then the next question is, do we actually have the desire to create that into something? Is there a strong enough desire? Because if there's not a strong enough desire, nothing happens. We just stay the same. We kind of flip-flop back into saying we don't need it. Because that's the default. That's the thing that we're familiar with. It feels comfortable to say, I don't need those things. And sure, you don't. It's truth. You wanted them a moment ago, though. You couldn't create the desire, so you reverted back to not needing it. This comes into a deep communication with the mind within our own framework. The purpose of this speaking to the camera is for communication. It's about the voice. But then what is the voice? The voice, we can look at it as the thing that makes sound come out of our mouth. That's like the tip of the iceberg. And so what's the other 90% of the iceberg? It's every filter that it goes through. The brain, the ego, every little story and belief and everything that we have about ourselves and our lives. That lives up there. The things that we reaffirm to ourselves. The things that we say are true. We're absolutely certain that they're true. And yet, those things can shift. Those things can change. And then we go, well, this is my truth now. This is what I believe. So is the previous thing true, or was it a story? And then we have that truth, and we have that filter. Then we've got our heart. Is our heart open or closed? Because if it's closed off to things, if it's closed off to life, it's probably going to be making some really bad choices. Because a heart that's open makes the right choice. It can feel when it's being pulled in a direction that feels aligned, and it can be told that, no, this is not a good idea. Yet the closed heart will just reconfirm the past and say, because of this story, because of this thing that happened, I'm going to close this off. And so that becomes a communication thing, a communication between the mind and the heart. Because we can choose to have our hearts open or closed in whatever moment. That's a choice to be made. And the choices are made usually up here. And so once we have those two in order, well, then we have our nervous system, or refer to as the gut. That's another filter. For example, in something that most people can feel safe doing, if I feel unsafe and I go into a freeze response, or if I go into fight or flight, I'm not going to be able to take effective action on whatever the thing is to speak that truth, because I'll be frozen up. And this is because this is linked in with the body, and the body holds a lot of trauma. The body holds a lot of the deep-seated beliefs that have lost story. There's no story to them anymore. It's simply just a manifestation of energy in the body. And that shows up in the sense of safety in the nervous system. And then we have our sexual energy, our eros. That is the seat of desire. Because in everything else, there's not really any desire. The heart doesn't really have desire. It has love. The mind has reason. The nervous system has it's like a survival. It's like very core survival. And we can train it. We can train it to not react to certain things and react to things that are actually real danger. Because quite often what we perceive as danger is not actually danger. But because we perceive it as danger, that's what we reaffirm to ourselves. And then we have, that's that sexual desire and that real yearning for something, to create something. And so once these are understood, we can allow these sections of ourselves to communicate with one another. And when they communicate, it creates harmony. We can create harmony. We can create dissonance as well. And so when it comes to actually looking at the voice is a culmination of all of these. And then we have the physical voice, which is desire run through a strong body, if that's where you're at. The desire running through a body, which then goes through the heart, which then runs through the mind, to add all the words and the spells and all of those things, that juicy stuff. And then it comes out of your mouth as words. Now, if you're mind heavy and you don't have, let's say, the heart in here, likely your words will come out cold. If you speak and you don't have any of this, and you've got all of these other components, you're likely to come out sounding simple. You might be some sort of, desire and full of desire and safety and love and connection, and have no intellect at all to back it up. These are extremes, of course. And so your words won't have any form of strategy to them. They won't have any tact. And let's say you have your mind and your heart in balance, and your nervous system is out. You're not going to operate very well because every scenario feels unsafe. Feels like a stress on your entire being. Even though your mind gets it all, your heart gets it all. You may even have that sexual desire. But without the nervous system in place, it's not going to allow you to heal the traumas within your body, or to just feel good, simply. And then we have if you're missing the eros, you could have all of these things. You could have the mind in place, you could have the heart in place, and that love, that connection, strategy. You may have that strength of grit and staying power. What if you don't have the desire to even do anything? You could have all of these things and not have desire. So looking at these as the core of the voice. And also the other one, the heart connecting in with the soul. Because the soul has a pull to it. And it's been something that had you mentioned this to me over a year ago, I probably wouldn't have believed you. It's around with the heart. When we really listen in with our heart, it pulls us in the direction of where we're going, where we're actually meant to go in this world, and draw us towards certain people. And I've certainly encountered some very interesting encounters. And some situations where looking back on it, had I listened to my heart, I wouldn't have chosen them. And then I have some where I knew it absolutely, because there was this pull here and I was like, oh, yep, this is where I'm going. And because I was listening to that voice, it was telling me, yep, this is good. And in those moments, I actually switched my mind off. I chose to not allow it to rationalize my old thoughts, because my thinking patterns were not really conducive to any growth. And when I made those choices, it was like, okay, cool, let's make this thing happen. And so that's what I'm in the process of doing right now, is making these things happen. Being able to sit in the room with certain people who have influenced my attitude towards life and basically the frequency that I'm running on. And it feels like it's constantly lifting me up to speak more, to use my voice more, to embody the entire voice. And to come back to the voice here, it's the physical voice. This is simply an expression of the voice. The way that you express your internal voice, and say you have all these components together. You could express it via dancing. You could express it via poetry, writing. You could write a book. You could run a marathon. You could start a podcast. You could create a YouTube channel. You could start expressing yourself in whatever way felt the most aligned to you. And you will stop getting in your own way, because all of a sudden, all of these areas of your being are alive and working together in harmony. Because if you looked at it like a company, if people in a company were not getting along well, the business is going to struggle. It will not work very well. And if it does, it's often via micromanaging and, a massive lack of trust. And so if you could see your body as a company, your soul and your awareness is the CEO, and it can be aware of all of these different areas. And it may seem awfully complex right now. And it's one of these things that take practice. I'm still working on it every day. There's things that I'm looking to refine. Tons. There's actually tons to refine. And yet the most primary one that I would say is necessary is to drop out of this guy. Because when we can drop out of the mind, we can drop into the nervous system and drop into the heart, which I see a lot of New Age people talking about that. A lot of people will drop into these spaces and they'll claim that that is life, that the breath is life, which it is, that, the heart is life and connection to the heart is life. Yes, which it is. Other people go into Tantra and go into Eros and they go, sexual energy is life, Eros is life. It's like, yes, it is. And so are all the others. And then once we go through these, we can come back to the mind with some sort of clarity. Because what I experienced personally is that my mind was so overpowered and it was basically running the show. And when I say overpowered, it was tyrannical. It was making every decision for me. I say this as an externalization of my own mind because there was a point that I realized it wasn't me, that it was something that I felt enslaved to. And that was when my journey with the heart started, of really diving into the heart more. And so if you're having troubles with moving forward in any of your endeavors, do you spend all day up in your mind? Do you think about everything? Do you ever allow yourself to feel what's in your body? If you don't, you may be completely, let's say, if you've ever heard the phrase, like a car running on, you know, a 4-cylinder car running on 3 cylinders. Maybe it's running on 2 cylinders. Maybe it's only running on 1. Especially when you look at how mind and information focused we are in a society. It's always about more information, more data. We get blasted with data. Our minds are so overwhelmed that our mind is basically in survival mode. So to actually give this a break, it allows us a chance to empty it out. To sort of go, you know what, I don't actually need that. I don't actually need that thought. That thought is not really serving me. And yeah, within the balance of all of these lies your true voice. That full authentic expression of fiery passion and aliveness that is aligned with your values as well. It can include a whole new way of using the voice. And this is why when people ask me about improving their voice, I say to them that it's not really about the voice. It's not about the voice as you see it. It requires a whole different view of the voice, of what the voice is. The mechanics of the voice before it is sound. And it does get quite holistic and does get quite quantum in a way, without actually needing to understand any sense of quantum reality. We can kind of get by with a basic awareness of it. And of course, within all of these things, you can learn more and more and more. And yeah, connections, voice, communication. It's all about connecting dots. It's about connecting dots, and the purpose of these videos, I keep stating the purpose of the videos because they keep deepening for me as I'm speaking. It's about connecting all these dots in my head. It's turned into quite a blog now. So that's really cool to be able to document this. I'm going to attempt to start doing these in the morning. I have a very, very big next couple of weeks with a lot of workshops and things to attend. For example, I'm going to be attending a light language course next week, which is probably the most woo-woo thing that I could have imagined doing. And listening to this says yes, so that's what I'm going to be doing. Because I realize that there's a lot of strength in being open to really out there concepts. I've learned so much from approaching life in that way. Because we never know, we don't know what we don't know what we don't know until we explore that thing that we've maybe got resistance to, that thing that we maybe write off as bullshit. Think of what it's costing you by writing something off and saying that it's bullshit. I did this for a long time with music. I would find certain artists and I would say, they suck. I had a thing with Justin Bieber. I was like, Justin Bieber sucks. And it's like, cool, you can have that opinion. Then I went down a rabbit hole recently and I was like, cool, what artists do I think suck? And then can I actually find something to like about them? Find out what I'm actually, like what makes them tick? Like why do people like them? And it's easy enough to say, well, people are brainwashed. That was the context that I was using. People are brainwashed, and they'll listen to crap just because it's played a lot of times. Sure, there's some validity to that. That when we hear something repetitively, we're going to enjoy it more. Or we're going to completely despise it. And yet within this process was going, you know what? I get why these things are popular. The songwriting in them can be incredible. It may not resonate with you. That's besides the point. So we often create opinions based off things because of our resistance to them. I listened to a lot of Taylor Swift recently. I listened to a lot of Drake recently. And here's me as someone that's primarily listened to heavy metal and blues music. Some electronic, quite a wide array of stuff. Never listened to pop music until recently. And I was like, man, some of this stuff's great. I realized how much my identity around what I did and didn't like was limiting my love of the universe, the love of life and what's around. I was limiting what I was actually allowing myself to receive. It's not the kind of life that I want to live, where I limit myself in that way. And so, choosing to be open to things. I do believe that everyone has something valuable to offer us. The most mundane things can provide so much wisdom. And in the same breath, the most out there, woo-woo, alien topics and teachers can have such deep wisdom. It's quite profound, really. The whole spectrum is valuable. And that can be a trap, right? The trap being of choosing a certain section in that parameter and saying, this is truth, or this is truth, this is truth, this is truth. And we don't really get to the core of anything from that. We don't really get a chance to explore what truth is. Because as far as I can tell, truth is all of it. Truth with a big T. Truth with a little t is very interesting. That's where we learn all the different bits of information. And when people can integrate all of those things, the spectrum of things, if people can integrate, let's say, weird spiritual alien concepts with grounded business, reality, and nature, if you can combine all those together and be functional in society and explain things in a way that people can make sense of, that's to me that's what I see as my purpose, is to help bridge that gap between the most bizarre concepts and to be able to explain them in a way that anyone can understand. That someone that doesn't even get spiritual concepts will understand it through my sheer desire to share that information and my sheer desire to be able to teach it in a digestible format, in words that can be understood, and not be so locked into the concepts either, not locked into that as an absolute belief. I enjoy it a lot. It's something that I'll go out on. The deeper that I've been going into my soul mission is revealing to me that my purpose is around communication and the voice. That's pretty damn evident. It comes out in my music. It comes out in this work. It comes out in my workshops. It comes out in the way that I coach. And it's ultimately connectedness between everything. How can we connect everything with everything? Because when we can connect everything with everything, when people know how to understand each other and know how to connect and know how to dissolve through all of the biases and to connect because of their biases, that is what I want to see more of. Two people that say, I have a bias towards this. I have a bias towards this. Let's be friends. Let's help understand each other more. That's how we learn about each other. It's about that core desire to learn about the world and to explore. Have you lost that desire to explore in all of the mazes in here? So if we can all sit in this space of the desire to explore and to learn, I believe that the world can become a much more peaceful place. That's me for today. Peace out. I'll see you guys tomorrow.